Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Movies Down Memory Lane, the first one of the new year, 2026. How you guys doing? I didn't even get a chance. I don't think we do an episode after Christmas? No.
Nope.
How was Christmas?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it always goes by so fast. You know what I mean?
Like, here he goes. Here
the
comes
holidays
time.
come in.
It comes time.
Here it comes again.
Fast.
Ironically,
time fast. Yeah.
Ironically, you're going to hear a lot about time probably in this episode, just because of the state of the movie in which we will be talking about. But the holidays come and go so fast. I feel like there's always that big anticipation.
I wish it was, for me, everybody says it's fast. It's not for me because I work in the soda industry and I spend like a month just like going head to head with the people around me who want to buy so much soda to put themselves in comas. Okay? So for me, it's like a lot longer, and it feels
which is ironic. It's ironic because soda typically has caffeine in it, which keeps you awake.
Yeah, but it has tons of sugar, which puts you in comatose from all the diabetes you're creating.
Soda coma.
Yeah, it's a thing.
But it felt like so long ago that we did About Time, and it's here we are. Andrew's episode is like. The 2 weeks has gone by so fast. I don't know, Steven. It just went by lightning fast for me.
Okay, I can't have two of you doing this on the show.
So that's interesting. Maybe it's a different perspective for you, Steven, because of family things. Like it goes like there's always so much for you to do. I guess I don't know.
I just don't think about it too much. As soon as it's time to,
lucky you,
I make plans to do things and I put them in. I'm a scheduler, so that's the only way I can get things done. So I just go through my days and I do the things I'm going to do. And then, we're back around to you again. If I start thinking about time too much, then it will never end and I'll never die. I want to die one day. Okay, Andrew?
A little morbid to start the year.
I know. I'm sorry. Welcome to Movies Down Memory Lane, the show where three friends get together and talk about the movies that mean the most to them. So this time around, we've gotten around to Andrew, and he chose a film that, at least for me, I had not seen since it came out in 2013. Please tell us that film.
Yeah, the 2013 movie that I'm referring to, and I can't believe it came out in 2013 because, wow, that seems like a while ago.
Just like yesterday?
Just like yesterday, is the movie Her by Spike Jonze. This is the last movie or the most current movie that he's actually directed. I mentioned that at the end of the previous episode when we talked about time, that it's been quite a time since we've seen from Spike Jonze. And this is the movie starring Joaquin Phoenix as well as Amy Adams. Rooney Mara's in the film briefly, as well as Olivia Wilde. And you get the voice of Scarlett Johansson. You don't quite get Scarlett Johansson in the movie, but she is obviously credited for being in the movie. And Chris Pratt is in the movie as well. And this was before Chris Pratt was in Guardians of the Galaxy, before he was in any of the Jurassic Park movies, before he became a household name. And
he was in Parks and Rec.
He was on Parks and Rec at the time, which still, when Parks and Rec was on, I watched it while I was on TV. It was still nowhere near as well known as a show as it was after it ended. Coincidentally, it's one of those shows where people discovered it years later on DVD or on streaming or whatever the case may be. But while it was on, it was kind of a smaller show. But Chris Pratt skyrocketed after that, but before then he had a small role in this movie. And what is fascinating about this movie, looking back at it now and looking at it now from a 2026 perspective, if you will, I have to get used to saying 2026 and not 2025 now. It's always that little adjustment every year. And this movie was, at the time, felt futuristic. It felt like this was something that was going to happen in the distant/near future. This idea of artificial intelligence being very close to our lives, close to the point where in this movie, Joaquin Phoenix's character, if you've never seen this movie before, we're probably going to spoil it, he begins a relationship with an operating system or an AI operating system voiced by Scarlett Johansson. That's why I said at the time, this was something that was like in the distant future. Now it's more so accessible than ever before. With AI being more used, more talked about, more utilized in every single way. I think even at the time this movie came out, we had certain elements of it within our side. Like we had like Siri to talk to our phones. I think Alexa was around. Google, you could talk to certain Google things, but I don't think people were using it as much as they use it now in our modern times. So this movie was relatively ahead of its time in terms of what it was projecting our relationship with technology, which I always thought to be fascinating. But what this movie really gets at, and for me, is where I even rewatching it now, where I really get a sense of get a handle with it, is its thematic elements when it comes to the representation or representing somebody going through a lot of emotional baggage issues, specifically with loneliness, isolation, like self analysis or self deprecation in a way, and really the search for intimacy on any level that he seemingly has lost in his life or is trying to regain or gain a more meaningful relationship with that over time. And I still think this movie holds up very well. I felt myself really connecting with it even more now, charging up a lot of those existential feelings. Super existential movie in this, and beautifully told as well. A lot of beautiful cinematography, a lot of beautiful editing, and the movie gives me that art house, surreal feeling at times. And just watching this movie again, I was also kind of presented with the idea that they don't quite make movies like this currently. At least not with these mainstream type of actors in it, in my opinion. And yeah, I still really, really enjoy this movie a lot. So I'll let you guys talk about it because I know it's been a while, Steven, since you've seen it. Dan, I'm not sure when the last time you saw it. I'm assuming you guys saw it when it came out,
Oh yeah,
years ago.
yeah. I saw it when it came out, and I think it had a meaning back then, Andrew. And I think you hit on. I think you really hit on some of the subjects. Loneliness, trying to find meaning, trying to see where you fit into a world of women, and this guy did have a wife, and he was getting divorced from his wife because he couldn't interact with her properly. He didn't have that like connection with her. But I think this is it's a movie that really is picked in a lot of certain demographic of people. And I don't want to pick on any specific group of people, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like single, lonely men who sit behind a computer, a laptop, whatever the case may be, are looking for that female connection. And I found over the years that this has been like the favorite of a lot of men in the YouTube / film criticism / whatever community you want to call it, that they're drawn to this movie. Joaquin Phoenix in this role is like one of their favorite roles of all time. Theodore Twombly. And I feel like me as a man who was in my early 40s when this came out, I was thinking about the same things, But as I've gotten older, I realized this is more about the advancement of technology, and we're forcing ourselves to go forward via technology faster than what we really need to be going. And this is literally any day now. This is literally could be going on right now behind the scenes in some lab, in some building somewhere in Sonoma, California. For all we know, someone's creating something like this. For all we know, but like you said, the Alexa, these things. I have a friend who has one that answers questions via Tom Hiddleston. It sounds like Tom Hiddleston's voice. He can make his thing sound like whatever he wants it to sound like. And it's like, this is where we're at. But I think we're stretching it how they were actually having a relationship. All right, so you talk to your computer, you're operating. A relationship isn't talking to somebody. Yeah, he took it around, he spun around and went places, and that's still not a relationship for me. That's stretching it. And the one connection he couldn't capture is sex and having a sexual, and they tried and it didn't work. So they still failed there. And that's where we're just that far away. We still haven't hit that part of operating systems and computer and central connection just yet. And I think that's where this movie is really a prophetic movie. It really is before its time, but it's really got a message about connection and love and loneliness, like you said, Andrew. And I find myself thinking about it after watching the movie as well. So I'm right with you on that sort of thing. But Steven, he's married with a wife and a child, so he's got a different perspective, I think.
I don't know that it's different. It's I think I would say maybe my perspective is a little bit more informed in the sense of like what it means to be in a relationship with somebody, to have that kind of connection. You know, like our main character had that connection, lost it, and now he's trying to find it again. And I think really, to me, the first time I saw this, I didn't really get it at the time. I was younger. I wasn't really into movies like this. And I found the movie to be slow and kind of maybe boring at the time. I didn't really understand it. But now as an older person watching it again, I'm like, dude, this is like, this type of movie is for me. It is exactly my movie. And it's about a type of person I would say I was, and to an extent. But I think to me, the greatest of the themes that I pull from it is it is about connectivity. It's about understanding what real connection is, and not letting man-made, whatever you want to call it, technology distract us. I think it becomes we see it in today's world. There's a lot of distractions, and we try to replace real connection with humans with technology, with even just talking like we're talking through the this is still not real connection in a way. Like it's not there. We're not seeing all the body language. We're not smells and just being in the room with somebody is a totally different experience. So I think, at the center of this, the main character is slowly he doesn't realize how out of touch he is through his own first marriage. He thought that marriage ended and didn't really, I don't think he really understood why it ended. That's why he was still in love with her and still wanted to be with her, even though it was going to end and they were going to have a divorce. So he didn't really understand why, but through his relationship with this OS, he slowly starts to understand through what she can't give him, what he was missing in his own relationship.
Connection.
Whether it's, I don't think the intimacy thing was a problem. I think the one that hits home for me is the scene near the end where she's talking to him about how she's been communicating with other OSs, and he keeps asking her, like, are you talking to other people? She's like, yeah, I'm talking to, and she's like, well, yeah, I fell in love with all these other OSs, all these other people, all these other humans that she's interacting with. So it, like, understanding like a real human relationship, when you're in a relationship with a human, the idea is usually that they're yours and you're mine, that you're each other's, and there is no other world. You create your own world together. But when you're dealing with this OS, it's like she can be talking to other people and doing other thing, and it is not you're not the center of her world. She could be doing, so it's not the same thing. It's not a real connection, because she really, even though she sounds real and she acts real, it's not real. It's not, and they keep trying different ways, like he's like a surrogate to be the physical thing. And it's just, I think the movie is really just commenting on how important real human connection is, and that we shouldn't let ourselves get too bogged down with the world and what the world's trying to do to distract us. So, and I think that, that loneliness, bless you, the loneliness and all them things it definitely has its role in the film. You see it shown through his desperation of trying to find connection. He's grasping at the wrong thing. He's grasping at this technology, this thing that can make him happy, but it doesn't fill a hole ultimately in the end. And,
It's
and
interesting. Yeah,
and I think you could put that label to any addiction that somebody has
very
with
much
something.
so.
I mean, you could say that about physical media.
Very true. Very true. I've always actually fallen back on that old saying, like you're always trying to fill the hole in your heart with something.
Yeah.
For me, it's always been movies, but it's interesting how this movie's traversing so many different things all at the same time. And I think Spike Jonze handles all of it pretty well in terms of like this furthering exploration of all of these emotions and these feelings of like I said, existentialism. There's moments early on in this movie, really early on, when he's trying to go out and connect with um anything. Like he's just reaching out, like you said, that sense of desperation. Where early on, like he even calls up like what I guess would be a futuristic phone sex line or something like that. And that doesn't work. He tries to go on a date with it, and it's Olivia Wilde, and it's going well, and then it falls apart just all of a sudden, and then that just leads him down a darker path.
It falls apart because he's thinking, well, because he'd already started dating the OS at that point, right? So he was already.
Think so. No, it wasn't until after that.
I was going to say, because it was like he has a reason for saying no,
Yeah,
and it makes no sense that
Yeah, ironically, the OS, this Scarlett Johansson is the one who sets him up on that date. I think, like, she's the one who.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's already
tries him to be like, "Hey, I noticed some like dating emails that you've been getting."
Well, that's what I'm saying.
About dating apps that are.
He'd already started his friendship with Samantha, the OS.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think when she said she wanted to, basically have him come home with her, he was like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think I might so he like what people do in real life when they're dating, if they're dating multiple people, they might decide not to go home with somebody because they might, and I think it was a similar thing, but he's choosing something that's not human over something that's real right in front of his face.
Yeah, and that's when she goes, "Oh, you're weird." She's like, "I want you to come home and have sex with me, but I don't want you to be like these other guys that have sex with me, then don't talk to me anymore." It's like, dude, you got someone that wants you to go with them to have sex with them. What is wrong with you?
Now,
he's got social awkwardness. There's a lot.
No, there is a little bit of that, but I think it's an interesting situation because if this was a human and he decided not to go home with her, we would be saying, oh, well, that's good self-control. Or that's, like he wants something real. He wants a real relationship with somebody. He doesn't want to just go home with somebody. And that in this particular situation, we think it's weird because it's between him and an OS. So, but that is an unhealthy, like, thing in a way.
Yeah, after that, he does go home. Well, he gets rather intoxicated. And usually when people are intoxicated, they don't make the best decisions in the world. And he goes home, and that's when he and Samantha, I guess you could say, become intimate, put intimate in quotes in for the first time. But he has this kind of monologue-ish that, he kind of just says that, he was just looking to get intoxicated and essentially hook up with someone. That was essentially his goal of the evening's festivities. And he mentions the idea of, filling this kind of empty hole in my heart. At least that's what I perceive to be, what I want to fulfill at that time. And that's a very real thing for a lot of people, wanting to fulfill their needs within the moment, because, or you ever hear of like the, what's that human hormone, the endorphin rush or something like that.
Sure.
They want to get like a dopamine hit or something. You know what I mean? And that's a very real thing for a lot of people. For a movie dealing with, artificial intelligence, future technology, it's hitting on a lot of really human situations and human things. Even within the relationship between he and Samantha, they do very regular humanistic things that people do in relationships. Go on dates out and about, double date with another couple in the movie, go on day trips to like Catalina. You know what I mean? Like they do very normal things.
Yeah, but it's the divorce dinner that really shines a light on the idea of what
that rattles him.
Well, she brings up the thing that it's kind of the thing that breaks down this whole thing because it's what starts that unraveling is that what you and this is what I was talking about earlier when it comes to like him not understanding necessarily that he was doing anything wrong in his marriage before. She's like tells him like, well, he was, he wanted me to be on meds and he couldn't deal with me. That's a real thing. They were getting in arguments, not agreeing with things. He was saying that she needed to be on some kind of medication. That's I can understand. I've been in that situation, so I know. So that's a really real thing. And, then when he tells her that, hey, you're with an OS, like, so essentially you want to be in a relationship without any of the baggage that goes along with a relationship, because there's nobody to fight him back. And if he wanted to, he could just ignore her and it wouldn't matter. You know what I mean? There is the stakes are not there when you're in a relationship that's not actually real.
I felt too, Stephen, like his job, like this is kind of like a yin and a yang, like his job. He writes letters, emotional letters to people, trying to have connection between fathers and sons and daughters and mothers and cousins and nephews and grandparents. And he knows all about emotion and all this stuff. Yet in his own life, he doesn't know how.
Interesting. It's interesting that you bring that up, because in a way, I mean, look at what the world in which we live in right now with AI, where, people are having AI write their text messages. People are having AI write their school papers, having them write their emails, all this kind of stuff. That's incredibly, in the future, like he's doing that for people by himself. But what is interesting, you bring that up. There's the scene where he's leaving work and Chris Pratt's at his desk with his girlfriend, and they're like, oh, we love your letters. We love all that. And he's walking away and he's like, they're just letters. So even though he's writing these deeply emotional letters, to him, they're not that. They don't mean anything. They're almost meaningless. They're just a job to him.
But he still can find connection within these people by writing their letters for them. But he can't find
it's almost easier it's so easy for him to do that because he has no emotional connection to it.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
You know what I mean?
And this is something I've and this is why I'll go ahead and say, like, watching this movie again, it's taking my, because before I would have said like I respect it. I'm actually kind of obsessed with the movie now because I found so much relatability to it. But like, there's I can't think of the right terminology for it, but there's a certain type of person, somebody you could say in our society that they would call like the nice guy complex, where somebody,
incel.
No.
Well, not incel. That's a different thing. The nice guy complex is that somebody that says all the right things, does a lot, seems nice on the outside, but because they're not able to put any of that in practice. When it comes to the moment, they have a hard time dealing with any real problems. You can have good advice, you can tell people things, but then if it actually happens to you and you can't deal with it and you do it, then that's the nice guy complex.
Right.
A lot of nice guys,
There's probably a more appropriate term for that, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. I know that's
the thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like there's all kind of like phrases and sayings for that. It's like, not put up or shut up, but the idea like,
no, I mean,
it's kind of like the sports analogy where you can prepare as much as you can, but once you get to the actual field of play, if you can't execute, all the preparation's kind of for nothing. You know what I mean? It's fascinating because the movie is dealing with a lot of those types of things, because we actually don't know. What's interesting is we get fractured parts of who Theodore Twombly is. We kind of don't know if he's like a nice guy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it's almost a facade, like the being nice and stuff. Like what we see most of the movie is that description of this kind of thoughtful, emotional. Chris Pratt says it to him. He's like he's so emotionally, like he's in tune. We haven't even talked about Amy Adams, who's a friend. They have many
than they think. They're a lot closer than they think.
Yeah, they have a lot of conversations and meaningful conversations, and that's the only. But when we get the few flashbacks to the marriage between him and Rooney Mara, where we can see that there is obviously another side here. And she's the only time that we really get is when we get to see that dinner time with her, where she has that different perspective. And it's the only time. So as if I looking it up, it says it right here. The nice guy complex or nice guy syndrome describes a pattern where men hide their true selves behind a mask of excess niceness, people pleasing, helpfulness, expecting, things like that. That's how they act to everybody else, but in private, they can be very different. Or they have thoughts that are different. Now, of course, we don't get the full picture here, but, and this is something I might be pulling out of it. That's more of a new idea that maybe the movie didn't have that on its mind. But I think that the way I can say it is I think that I could see him being that type of person. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. That's just what people do when they have a hard time making connections with people. And this is why I relate to it, because I feel like I was maybe one of them people at one point. We tend to want to just do what everybody else wants to do. We people please. We give in. We don't ever actually do the things we want to do. So you hide behind that stuff. And then when things don't go our way, we can take it really bad. It can make us feel bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. But you guys did mention the Amy Adams character, and the Amy Adams character I think is phenomenal in the movie. She comes in and she has some of the best scenes. Her and Theodore's relationship is so unique and so interesting because there is a backstory there where they've been friends since college, and so they know each other quite intimately. They live, I believe, in the same apartment complex from what we understand, and her character story is interesting because we get a little bit of it. She starts off coincidentally in a relationship and then also makes her transition into one of these OS's relationships as well. And so we get a little bit of a side perspective from her about what she's dealing with, and she's kind of there for him when he needs like a best friend. She's basically his best friend.
It's like a tool for her.
It's interesting because we only see like one scene with her interacting with her OS, and it's one scene where he's like kind of like sleeping on the couch and she's like interacting with it because coincidentally she's a tech person. She develops or works in the video game field, which is a whole other interesting kind of thing because that's where things like OSs and AI have really been prominent over the years because of the interactiveness within video games and things like that. So her perspective on technology must be different than his. If anything, I wanted more of her in the movie.
She's got a little bit more. It seems like she's got a little more of an awareness of
the role of technology in people's lives.
Her connection with it. Yeah.
And it's interesting, like she goes through I think her marriage ends. It's like an 8-year marriage, I think, that ends in the movie. And it's interesting, she says like how her marriage ended. It was something as silly as her not taking off her shoes as soon
not putting her shoes at the right place in the house.
It was such a petty argument that they had. And sometimes that's the straw that breaks the camel's back, if you want to go with that saying, in a relationship.
It's not necessarily it's not necessarily that ended it. It was all the other things before.
It was probably all of the it's usually not one thing. It's many things that end a relationship, whether it's a friendship, familial relationship, romantic relationship. There's always a lot of things that go into that. Another thing that's interesting in the movie is Scarlett Johansson's character asks Theodore why hasn't he signed his divorce papers yet, and he says it sleepily, but I think he's sincere. And he's like, I like the idea of being married. Like, I like being married. And I'm like, that's fascinating because you hear so many stories about people staying within marriages or relationships that are no longer have a love aspect to it. People stay in loveless marriages. People stay in relationships out of convenience, whether it be financial or other personal reasons or whatever. And it's so fascinating because the Rooney Mara and Theodore's relationship is pretty definitively over. He's just holding on to kind of nothing. He's holding on to an idea of marriage versus what marriage or relationship actually is.
I mean, that almost kind of defines it right there. What I was saying, like he never really understood nobody really understands what it takes to be married until they do it.
Right.
But he really obviously doesn't understand it even once it's done. He hasn't self-reflected on it enough to understand that, you know, holding on to marriage just because you like the idea of it tells me that your idea of marriage is like not.
That's a fantasy, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, like it sounds like when things were good in his marriage, it was because they were syncing up for the things that were making them they already made themselves happy. You know, when he used to like edit her or edit his letters, and then he would read her books because she's a writer. So they connected over writing. And so when it wasn't about their writing, the rest of it fell apart. And so it's like, not if you can't, that's what it is about marriage that he's like missing, is not understanding that when it's all the other stuff, that's the stuff that you have to get through, and you have to compromise, and you have to like love the person for the things that are not like you, you know, like
I say this all the time. You know, I'm not someone who is so versed when it comes to romantic relationships or anything like that. You know, I'm a perpetually single bachelor person, but just observations of people that I know who have been in relationships or out of relationship, people have gotten married, all this kind of stuff. Those things are incredibly complex. Human relationships, specifically on a romantic level, are incredibly complex and incredibly difficult and are life consuming. You know what I mean? This is like, to be in a relationship with someone on a level of a lifelong commitment. It's not a small thing. You know, people, I think, sometimes get into these things without fully realizing the ramifications of them all. You know what I mean? Or fully realizing all the complexities that go in it. There are going to be good times. There are going to be bad times. And sometimes things are going to outweigh the other. And it's really, you got to kind of know what you're getting yourself into. That's why there's always these things like, people always kind of rag on people for being in long relationships without marriage or long engagements without marriage. And I'm like, not really. You really need to live with someone for a while to know the ins and outs of them before you want to, you know, essentially give a part of your life to them, because that's what you're doing. That's what a relationship is. So it's give and take,
100%.
yin and yang, you know, all these things. And for Theodore's character, it seems like we don't really get a sense of what he thought a marriage is. We only get like some flashbacks, like we've been saying, with the good moments. You know, we get like them laughing and hugging and going on trips together.
Also, what's telling about his relationship with Samantha is that essentially she's like a newborn. You know, she didn't have any kind of connection with humans before she talks to him. So her development as a conversationalist, as somebody that's connecting with a human on herself, is only based on him to begin.
Until we learn that she's been conversing with other people, she's been conversing with other AIs, other OSs, and she's developing and learning as the movie goes along. And she's evolving to new levels of like consciousness and thoughts and ideas and things like that. And to the point where she almost kind of outgrows human interaction.
I mean, like any even human, to an extent, one of the most human things she does is that she's curious. She wants to go and explore. She wants to go see what else is out there, and she can't give him what he needs. Even as an AI, understands that what he needs is a human. He needs to be with his own kind, and she's going to go be with her own kind. And that's what matters. That's what makes sense for both of them. And it's kind of odd that the AI can understand that and he doesn't really understand that.
Well, yeah, it just goes to show you how advanced this AI is compared to what we've got kicking around now. You know, I can ask my phone what time it is, but I don't think it can dissect my whole life and analyze me on a philosophical,
not yet.
Psychological level. Not yet. We haven't reached the levels of Skynet yet. You know, we're not quite on Terminator what's
weird though, Ray, is I looked at the world that was like, how many years in the future do you think this was? Because they're saying it was LA, but they try to make LA look like a futuristic city and stuff. They really glamorize this version of Los Angeles in a way that I don't think I've ever seen Los Angeles look this beautiful and this just glamorous. And the clothes was an interesting, the color palette of the clothes and the various things that the people wore. So I think it was some kind of a dystopian future, but not like a post-apocalyptic future.
I think honestly, I almost couldn't think of this as being like our future, more like an alternate reality. Like,
Yeah,
it's like, you know,
yeah. I think at the time it was supposed to be like I was saying earlier, like the near distant future. The near distant future in terms of like, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years. I felt like it was that time frame. What's interesting.
Look, Josie's using your word, prophetic.
Oh, prophetic. Yeah.
Yeah, we said that earlier. Dan says that word a lot in this episode at the beginning. But yeah, no, I agree that it is very much seeing ahead for sure. But I think when I was watching it, I was like, I don't want this to be our near future. I would like to think of this as maybe some alternate version on another dimension of how our world turns out.
Yeah, I mean,
we're kind of in a negative turn of the future of this a little bit more happier. It seems a little bit more happier than the world we're living in right now.
It looks a lot cleaner and like
real clean,
nice.
Right?
That's what I'm saying. LA is never going to be that clean.
Things seem more efficient. Things seem more efficient. Like they're all on the subway, just all nice, and everybody's going about their business. Yeah. Nobody's doing.
Well, that's because
crazy,
a lot of them,
you know.
What you realize watching other people is that he's for sure not the only one with an OS.
Yeah,
for sure.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, you hear some of the numbers later on.
Looking at their thing. They're looking at their thing. They're walking, and everybody's not even paying attention to each other. Just walking, looking at their thing.
That was the biggest thing I related to today.
Yeah,
that's how people are right now. On their phones all the time.
People were like that in 2013, but the phones have only gotten more and more sophisticated over the last dozen years or so. Like I said, technology is moved along a lot just over the last 15 to a dozen years.
But I do, that's kind of ironic that Josie's commenting. I kind of would like a female perspective on this movie. I think that would add another angle to this conversation, a female perspective. You know what I mean?
I mean, you get a couple. I mean, not a full on experience, but I mean, even the girl that's the surrogate physical version of Samantha in the movie, you get a little bit of a different perspective of somebody that was also apparently lost when it came to finding a connection with people. So she decided to essentially just insert herself in the middle of a good connection.
That is fascinating because it's such a small scene.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. That scene also reminded me of Blade Runner 2049. There's a similar scene in Blade Runner 2049, Denis Villeneuve's film, where coincidentally, the AI that Ryan, what's his name's character is, Ryan Gosling's character is dating in the movie. She's kind of this holographic non-corporeal form.
She can't leave the apartment, though.
And she can't leave the apartment. So they provide it. There's a surrogate in there. There's a physical surrogate in there, and it goes in a similar negative way. Coincidentally, kind of just shows you no matter what future we're in, human interaction is still an issue. And it's interesting because that's what I was kind of saying with the whole Amy Adams character. Is like she provides a different perspective on the situation. But, with some things that Josie's saying in the comments here, that in Japan, they actually have AI girlfriends. We have reached a point where people do interact with AI more closely now than ever before. I mean, we also heard, if you've ever seen movies like Lars and the Real Girl, there's always been like that.
Well, Rental Family, you had that whole thing where they get people to fill the void in someone's life because they don't have a person in there. It's like, this stuff is just like beyond a comprehension in some ways. You're like, how would we come up with all we're doing to me, Andrew and Steven and Josie, is showing that we don't want connection. We want to limit connection more and more and more, cutting off connection with people. Like I'll say it, Between Andrew and Steven, I've only met Steven once, and I've never met Andrew in person. We've only ever talked like this or via Messenger on Messenger. Like, we're cutting off connection more and more and more every single day that technology like this advance.
Why?
And all it does is create more problems, in my opinion, than it solves.
I think
Yeah, that's a tough.
It's what I think it is I think the world is technology in a way has failed us. There are obviously a lot of advancements that have been great things for society and for people, but it's also been used to help cultivate convenience for everything that we do in our life, which creates laziness. So nobody wants to take the extra effort to do anything, and that includes talking to people or it's everything.
I'm a prime example.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would rather talk to somebody like any of you guys on the phone, have a conversation on the phone but everybody wants to email, text. It's like it's not conversation when you're texting and you're emailing. You're not getting connection between people. And I hate to keep using the word connection, but it's failing us. Email is a form of lack of connection rather than connection. Texting is a form of lack of connection rather than connection. I would rather call you knowing I got somebody else on the other line that I know and I can have a conversation with. Yeah, I like this kind of that we do every couple of weeks. This is fun for me and I enjoy it, but it's still not the true connection that.
Well, I mean, this is the best we're going to do. We're not going to be able to go see each other in person.
I'm just going to say
this is the best we can do.
Ironically,
you know what I mean.
Ironically, I understand Dan's perspective because Dan's perspective is valid, definitely valid. But what's interesting is I'm kind of on the opposite perspective where I like the idea of the convenience of it all. I like the idea. That's what I love. That's what I do like about technology. It has made life easier in several regards. If I want to talk to somebody right now, I could do it. Texting's faster than even emailing someone. You know what I mean? Or all of that. But I understand the negative aspects of all of that. The lack of the personal qualities of it all. The lack of the tonality of it all. I can't tell you how many times sometimes you send a message to somebody via text, email, instant message, whatever the case may be, and you say something and you intend it to be in a certain tone, but it doesn't come off that way. Like, that's a problem. So communication issues are there.
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. It's also about quality, like the quality of the communication, the quality of the relationship that you're having is only amplified if you're actually having usually like a talk like this or like on a phone, like something where the more you can actually bring value to it instead of devaluing it by just having, like you said, toneless and
and that is kind of comes down to on an individual basis, how do you utilize technology, I think is a big thing. Do you utilize it out of, like you guys say, laziness, or do you utilize it out of convenience? Do you utilize it in a positive way, in a negative way? I mean, there's so many different ways in which you can kind of slice these things up. I feel like there's a balance, or there's a different side to everything.
Amy Adams is doing it the right way. She uses that AI as a tool to help herself basically get a therapist.
Yeah, she's kind of using it to help her life, which is kind of the way in which I think technology was originally intended to be used.
Well, texting wasn't supposed to become a hyper-used version of communication. It was only supposed to be for little messages to hand over when you needed to send a quick message to somebody, not having full conversations.
You know what I mean? Like small things like, can you pick up milk at the store for me?
Yes.
Yeah. What time are you going to be home? You know what I mean? Things like that. But it's obviously things have evolved. We've evolved as people over time. I remember when texting used to be charged 10 cents per text back in the day. Now it's free. You know?
I mean, stuff like that used to. It was obviously the technology had to evolve, but it was essentially just set up to be for minimal. Now it's everybody has to have an unlimited plan to be able to keep up with all the stuff that they do.
Yeah, you have to have internet access. You got to be someplace that has internet access.
Yep.
Is your phone fast enough? Is it not fast enough? There's a whole. It's multiply complex now to the point.
There was a time when internet was not at our fingertips, and it was
right.
It was a whole different world.
You know what's nuts to me, you guys? And this is going to get me on a tangent now. Just being a lifelong academic, I'm always kind of tapped into the world. People who are in the education world now and utilizing AI and stuff like that. And I'm like, back in the day, we had none of those tools that were able to do the work for us. You had to create all of these ideas organically, or you had to create them using research and all this kind of stuff. People spent hours just formulating ideas and sentence structures and using different words and different languages in order to kind of portray their thoughts on page. Whereas now kids are utilizing programs to do that. You know what I mean? Utilizing software and things like that. And I'm like, that's where technology, I think, is taking a negative downturn, where it has minimized education. It's minimized people's intelligence. It's minimized people utilizing skills that I think you need in life. You knowing which words to say at which point, how to sentence structure, how to read, write, the basic things in life.
It's creating
kind of essential,
It's creating shortcuts for everything.
And shortcuts are nice, but there's a level that you reach when those shortcuts diminish your skill as a person.
When you first learn something, you should try to learn how to do it and understand it by doing all of it. And then once you get good at that, then you can start using shortcuts.
That's actually a good way to think about it.
Just for instance, the keyboard I have has all the shortcuts to Adobe Premiere so that I can quickly do things instead of having to click over to the folder and go look for the thing. And but before, I learned where to find all that stuff first. Now that I've done that, now I bought myself a nice keyboard that can make it quicker. But you have to understand this. You got to understand how to work on a car, how to understand how it runs before you can, start using certain tools to get, it's
starting to figure out ways around the processes of things, or ways to make the processes easier, as opposed to starting out at an easy level.
Yeah.
And then just relying on that easy level throughout. Exactly. You won't really appreciate that easy level unless you learn the hard stuff,
and you won't appreciate it for sure. So, I mean, I think that logic applies to a lot of things, but let's get back
I don't want to go down that road
because we're getting close to finishing up. But I think, this movie, for me, has become an obsessed movie, because I think it not only does it really play really well now more than ever. I think it even plays better now than it did when it came out.
Yeah, I think back when it came out, it was like, oh, these are interesting ideas, as opposed
this
to
is a novel
these
thing,
are actual ideas.
Now this stuff feels more real than ever, and I think that our battle with connectivity is we're in the middle of it, and it's so I think this movie's way more prominent now than it ever was. And I think Spike Jonze, it sucks that we don't see enough of his films. He only comes up with an idea every so often. He's kind of like, what's his name? The fashion designer that is finally doing a new movie next year.
Tom Ford.
Tom Ford, everything he does ends up being really awesome or at least interesting, but he barely does anything.
I don't think he's done a movie in 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, Spike Jonze's last movie was what, the Where the Wild Thing. No, was it Where the Wild Things Are?
No, Where the Wild Things was before this.
Was that before that? Okay. Yeah. So it's been so long, and he's got a great eye for not only visuals but his sense of theme and how to communicate that in a very genuine way. So I think I'd like to see him do something.
Yeah, his films are very introspective. Introspective, because you have being John Malkovich, which is obviously being inside John Malkovich. Then you've got Adaptation, which is adaptation was meta before meta was an idea. And then you've got Where the Wild Things Are, which is this exploration of childhood and things like that.
He's kind of got a Wes Anderson meets Charlie. Was it?
Charlie Kaufman?
Charlie Kaufman kind of thing.
Yeah.
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 So it's interesting that they work together on.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I mean, look, I watched it when it came out, Steven, and I watched it. I think I've seen it since then, but I think rewatching it for this is really giving me a new perspective on it in a way. But I also feel like it also points the finger at a group of people in this
I don't think it does.
society.
I don't think it's being. I don't think it's being mean. I don't think that definitely not being mean. I think, it's even if it's representing a certain type of person. I don't think that it necessarily is being negative towards them. I think
no, I'm not saying that it's being negative. It's just it's showing that this was going to happen, that this type of person was going to occur. It was gonna.
I think that these type of people were already existing way before.
I was gonna say they were already
yeah,
there.
yeah, good point.
It was already
but
there.
It really kind of just shed a light on a different light. Like this is like a version of Taxi Driver in a way.
Well, I think, yeah,
That's
I mean,
interesting.
I think that there's I think that, like what you said earlier, like it would be nice to see a female perspective because essentially I look at this movie. I mean, it's a relationship movie, but it's not in the kind of, cookie cutter way. And it really is focusing more on not how two people get together, but why two people didn't work. And that's and without them actually clashing at each other at all in the movie, really. They're barely, the two people that are not together anymore barely share the screen together, but it's how he learns about it through another relationship.
But also why he can maybe coexist with a different person, with that person going through their own thing and him going through his own thing. Then they realize by the end of it, maybe they're more alike than they ever thought they were, So
you're saying Amy Adams and Joaquin Phoenix are going to be together after this?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't see that.
No, okay.
I don't think that was what the end was trying to give us, is that these two people might end up together. I think that they're friends, and I think that they both have. She's already been married. She's already gone through the whole thing, and they were both married people. But she's obviously, like him, I think a little bit more emotional intelligent, which is what most women are, way more emotionally intelligent than men. And I think they just both have went through the ringer together in different ways, and their support for each other. I don't think that it necessarily means that they're going to be together.
Okay. All right.
But I think it's a great deconstruction of a relationship and understanding, specifically for men, where, even though the movie's called Her, the movie's about him and about him understanding where he went wrong in his relationship. Because no matter what, if you think that it's the other person, I'm telling you, you did something wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody, it's never just one side.
It's very hard to kind of self-analyze yourself if you're not aware of things.
But be honest though, a lot of men don't care about it. They don't care about that.
That's where the lack of awareness comes from.
The operating system with Scarlett Johansson. They would rather have PORN instead of having that emotional connection with another person, going through that, living with someone for 6 months to a year, and then developing a relationship with someone. They would rather take the easy way out.
It's convenient. That's
a whole other can of worms.
Well, it is and it isn't. It's, once again, it's just looking at a relationship. Yeah. It's about connection. It's also like, we're looking at another example of where the main character wants to take the easy way instead of actually dealing with himself. He can talk about emotions, but he can't deal with them. So it's two different things. You can be, you could be a therapist for somebody, but not actually be able to, and not have experience, there's therapists that have never been married, but they talk to people
write
about
all the letters he wants, connecting people and connecting to people, but he can't find connection in his own brain because he emotionally doesn't know how.
And there's a difference between
And a lot of men are like that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say there's and I deal with this all the time. There's a difference between saying you can do something and actually doing it. Like they're two different things. You can know something needs to be done, but to motivate yourself and to actually have discipline in doing something is.
And that's why, you know, in a way, I'm proud of you. Not that you care that I'm proud of that you are actually doing the thing that most people want to do, but don't have the courage to go and do. You're doing it and you're living it. So
it's a work in progress.
For that in a lot of ways.
Marriage is a work in progress all the time. It's going to have its ups and downs. And it's always like Andrew said, like it's hard and it's always having to be worked on. It's like a damn sculpture you're trying to sculpt, but you're always just like doing a little chip and you're like, or like a gazebo tree and you're just like, like
a bonsai tree,
a little bit. Yeah. But bonsai tree, you're just always like taking a little bit, you got to do, there's always a tweak, and
I've been around a lot of people, Stephen, that have failed and tried again the second time around.
That failing and that giving up and failing, some of that's that the relationship wasn't convenient enough for people. That's where the heart of this conversation is with this main character. But Andrew, anything else you would like to say about your film?
No, I mean, I it had been about 10 years since I had watched the movie, just looking at the Letterboxd, and I'm glad I brought it back to revisit it. But this was kind of another movie that's kind of in this theme of movies I keep picking, where they're movies in which I see myself in them a little. So these movies hit very close to home.
50-50 was a big one for you.
50-50, Almost Famous, and Now Her are all like 3 movies so far that I've talked about where I'm like, I connect to these on a very personal level for various reasons. I don't know if that's going to happen with the next one, but we shall see. But I believe next time we'll be doing Dan's pick.
Danny.
Yeah.
What was your pick?
Ever since I was a little kid,
he wanted to be a gangster.
I always wanted to be a gangster. Andrew, I do not have it in front of me, but Andrew does. We're going to be talking about Goodfellas because that's what my life is like. I want to be a gangster.
Oh, yeah, I was like, damn, you're running.
Dan is
running
essentially
some businesses we don't know
Scarface. He's Scarface. He wants to be Scarface. But no, I mean, it'll be interesting. We were going to get around to a Scorsese film eventually with this guy.
With movies down memory lane, I feel like Scorsese's at least been an influence on my life in various ways.
These movies. 2 guys, but between both of them, we're going to go through the whole catalog. So, yeah. But awesome. So we got some Goodfellas to get prepared for. So if you're out there and you haven't seen it yet, kind of weird, then please watch it before we do our next episode. But that is it for this trip down memory lane with the film 2013's Her. Of course, if you did not watch this here, or if you didn't have time to, go to the audio version and check it out there. And of course, we have all the other shows on the Chasing Labels page, whether it's the flagship show, Chasing Labels, with Andrew, who's going to run down the physical media releases from the last couple weeks, or the Unwatched Pile, which is a monthly show where we, bring out the unwatched movies in our collection, watch them, and then pair them with a movie in our collection that we've seen. Or there's this show, of course, and then movie Mutations, which, is another monthly thing. You got another episode of that coming soon. But that's it, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And let's all get together. Talk movies. Be friends.